I see dead people. Ghosts have always been a huge influence in my life. From bumps in the night to full out conversations with the departed, they have inspired me. I will explain to you why my lack of fear and my respect for the disembodied voices has grown throughout my life. By explaining my first encounters as a child, my growing interest in the paranormal field, and my terrifying encounters with the not so friendly Caspers, you will begin to understand a small part of me. I was about 5 years old when I began to hear the voices. They would always just be a whisper calling my name, and each night I would follow the voices into the basement to a dead end, and then the voices would stop. I would just stare at the wall in front of me, perplexed as to what I had just experienced, though I was never afraid, just curious. And eventually the voices stopped, for a little while anyway. The most impactful moment happened when I was about 8 years old. We owned a farm with many acres of wooded land, and I used to always go and adventure in the woods behind the land looking for turtles and newts and kid stuff. And one day I got too caught up in my adventure and went further than I'd ever gone before. And I noticed it began to get dark and realized I was lost. So I was alone and scared, and I sat down and started to cry. But something came over me, and I immediately calmed down and felt compelled to look up. When I looked up, there was a huge glowing ball of light right in front of me. Immediately I felt safe and comforted and good. I felt safe. So I followed the light and walked and never took my eyes off this light. And it was dark outside, but somehow the path in front of me was lit up so I could see where I was going. So I just walked, and eventually I found my house and ran home. I was so excited to be home, I never thought to look back to try and figure out what this light was. All of these experiences were very positive until I turned 13. I was going through a very rough time in life and turned to the darker side of the spirit world as sort of an escape from reality. Late at night, I would sit in my closet and play with the Ouija board, have seances, and other Wiccan rituals. All the time asking for the dark side to come and embrace me. It was almost like having an invisible friend, but one that was a powerful, protecting force that made you feel invincible. It opened a whole new world for me. I began to hear growls instead of whispers. I began to see dark figures rather than glowing lights. And one evening, our family was deep in a heated argument, and we all stopped abruptly when we heard this huge crash come from upstairs. So we ran upstairs trying to pinpoint the noise, and we found in our library a huge disaster. We probably had close to 3,000 books in there, and the floor was just covered with books in various spots that had fallen, and that was a huge crash. But every single book that fell on the ground was about demonology, Satanism, and the occult. It was just too weird to be coincidence. And things got worse. I found a scorpion in my room. I would hear deep voices telling me I was going to die. And one night, I do not remember this at all. I wasn't myself that evening, but I went after my sister with a knife, intent on harming her. The horror continued until, thankfully, one evening on April 1st, 2000, our house burnt to the ground. Everything was gone. And it was the best thing that could have happened to us. It freed us. Since that day in 2000, our families continued to have a growing interest in the paranormal. We never pursue the negative aspects, however. We only try and make contact out of curiosity and respect in order to better understand the barriers that seem to exist between the spirit realms. I could share with you many more stories, but I will conclude with the thought that it is not always as scary as it seems to experience an encounter with the departed. As I explain, when you begin to see and hear these phenomenons at an early age, it helps to condition you to accept that there are other realms to this so-called life. And as I stated, my reasons for the growing interest on this subject, maybe some of you will consider making contact. But hopefully my accounts of the negatives will deter you from delving too deep into the unknown. So next time you see that shadow out of the corner of your eye, or that spooky whisper in the middle of the night, just say hi. Ghosts have feelings too, you know.